At around 2 in the morning, Sergeant Andrew Bell was finishing his report at the police station in Luray, a quiet little town in the state of Virginia, when the radio crackled with a new occurrence. Fire on Maple Street, number 122. Repeat, residents on fire, units en route. It was the third fire in less than 2 months. And the third occurred just after reports of a strange grey cat in the neighborhood. An animal with eyes that were too big, almost inhuman, as if they were always watching, predicting something the others couldn't see. The first time, nobody paid much attention. The house of an elderly couple, the Witherspoons, caught fire in the early hours of the morning. Fortunately, they both managed to get out alive. The cat was seen by the next-door neighbor, standing on the fence, motionless, staring at the kitchen window that would burst into flames minutes later. The second time was more tragic. The house of a single woman, a teacher at the local school, burned down so quickly that she had no time to escape. Some pupils said that she had commented that she had seen a strange cat hanging around her balcony in the previous days. Now it was the third time. And the strange thing was that number 122 Maple Street had been an abandoned house for years. And before we continue with this intriguing story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. This helps us bring you more content like this. Now, let's get back to the story. Andrew drove there in silence, his heart racing as the glow of the fire began to stand out among the dry branches of the trees. When he parked the car, he saw the firefighters trying to control the flames, which seemed to be feeding on the air itself with uncommon violence. But what really made his stomach turn was the sight of him. Standing across the street, right in front of the burning house, was the cat, grey, thin, ordinary-looking, except for its eyes. They were huge, bright, almost like beacons. Andrew blinked, approached with quick steps, and the cat disappeared into the shadows. The next morning, Andrew decided to visit the public library. He wasn't the kind of man who believed in superstition, but 3 identical coincidences were too much for his skepticism. He went through old newspaper archives using microfilm, a slow and tiring job. He wanted to understand if there was a pattern, an older story. After a few hours, he found something curious. In 1972, a house located on the same plot of land as 122 Maple Street also caught fire. According to the report, the house belonged to a lonely woman called Meredith Kane, known for being reclusive and eccentric. The newspaper said she lived surrounded by cats, but especially one, a grey one with unbelievably large eyes. The caption of a yellowish photo showed only smoke in the background and a fireman carrying a child, a little girl of about 7. The headline read, "Miracle. Child survives mysterious fire that kills mother." Andrew froze. There was something about that childish face, that expression of fear and shock. He took the girl's name, Elaine Kane. That same day, Andrew knocked on the door of a remote house in the more rural part of Luray. A lady with white hair, a tired expression and a discreet scar near her left eye answered. "Elaine Kane?" he asked. She hesitated, then nodded slowly. "That's right. It's been many years." Her voice was soft, but there was a weight to it. "Do you know anything about a grey cat with oversized eyes?" She almost smiled, but it was a tense, painful smile. Then he came back. Andrew remained silent. "He always appears before the fire. I saw him that night. He was at the window. I tried to shout for my mother to run away, but she just stood there, as if she was hypnotized." "What is he?" Andrew asked, almost in a whisper. "I don't know, but he never gets old. Ever since I was a child, he stayed the same, and every time someone sees him, the fire comes." She said that she had tried to move away, to live far from the city and ignore the past, but she always dreamed of the cat, as if it were watching her from a distance. "What does he want?" insisted the sergeant. "Nobody knows. Maybe he sees something we don't, or maybe he causes what he sees." Over the next few days, Andrew began scouring the city for security cameras, reports on forums, anything. He found something that sent a chill down the back of his neck. In the minutes before each of the last 3 fires, the cat had been spotted. On house cameras, in the corners of social media videos, in old posts, always in the same pattern. The cat was staring at the spot where, shortly afterwards, the fire would start. But the most bizarre thing was to discover an even older photo, taken in 1935, at a town celebration. Among the children sitting on the grass, there was a grey cat. Exactly the same size, same eye shape. Andrew was convinced that there was something beyond logic there. But how could he stop something he didn't understand? How to contain an animal that seemed to exist outside of time, outside of the rules of nature? The 4th apparition happened on a Wednesday evening. A teenager posted on his profile, "Look at this weird cat here in front of the town hall. Giant eyes, looks like it's from another planet." That same night, just before midnight, the town hall headquarters was consumed by a sudden fire. Andrew arrived seconds after the firemen. He looked everywhere for the cat, but when he turned around to get into the car, it was there, standing on the hood, huge, glassy eyes staring straight at the sergeant. "What do you want from me?" Andrew asked, almost pleadingly. The cat jumped off the hood and disappeared into the night. Over the next few weeks, Andrew had no peace. He started having dreams of fire, of houses melting, of screams muffled by flames, and the cat, always there. Sometimes the animal's eyes looked human, at other times it spoke, but never with words. It spoke with its eyes. One detail stuck in his mind. All the fires were preceded by the appearance of the cat, and they all seemed to target people who had done something wrong. But who was the judge, and why now? Andrew realized that the town of Luray hid more than the smell of burning wood, and perhaps the most dangerous fire was yet to come. The morning after the town hall fire, the town woke up in shock. The flames had consumed not only important files, but also the life of a civil servant who slept in the building, a man called Craig Hollister, known for his rigidity and difficult temperament. Andrew heard from neighbors that Craig used to threaten residents with fines, evictions, and lawsuits, especially the poorer ones. "But he didn't deserve to die like that," muttered one of the neighbors on seeing the wreckage. While the forensics team worked to identify the source of the fire, Andrew knew that none of this would matter, because once again, the cat was there. Sitting in his living room, surrounded by inconclusive reports and historical records, Andrew decided to put together a sort of timeline. In less than a month, 4 fires with one witness in common. That cat, over 80 years of previous records, with sporadic and unexplained appearances. He returned to Elaine Kane's house with his notebook full of notes. "I thought you'd left this behind," she said as she opened the door. "But he always comes back. You said the cat appeared in your childhood. But was there anything in common with the victims? What had your mother done?" Andrew asked directly. Elaine hesitated. For a moment, her face closed. "My mother, she wasn't the person people thought she was. You know those stories about witchcraft that nobody believes anymore? Maybe there was something to that. She dealt with old things. She evoked things. She said she talked to spirits. Did she summon the cat? Maybe she did, or maybe she freed it." Andrew felt a chill. What did that mean? Was the cat a spiritual being, some kind of entity of justice, or a curse? What if it's not the cat that starts the fires, but the people? Elaine suggested, almost in a whisper. "Ideals, what if it just appears, to watch?" This idea stuck in the sergeant's head. The cat didn't create the fire. Did the cat warn, or witnessed it? Or did it appear when someone did something that deserved it? Over the next few days, he looked for people connected to the victims. He discovered with some effort that the Witherspoon couple had been indicted years before for child abuse. The teacher who died in the second fire had been secretly suspended for inappropriate conduct with a pupil. Craig Hollister. Well, everyone knew about his abuses of power. Was it possible? Andrew began to treat the cat as a kind of messenger, a manifestation of some kind of ancient justice, mysterious, implacable, and invisible. It was then that he met Naomi Evans, an independent journalist investigating historic fires in the United States. She had come to Luray after seeing the reports online and approached Andrew directly. "I've read everything you've posted on the police forum, and there's something I need to show you," she said, sitting down with a laptop in front of her. She opened an encrypted file and showed a series of images from different cities and states. They all showed, in different years, places on fire, and always the same cat, sometimes on a fence, sometimes on a sidewalk, but always with the same abnormally large eyes. New Orleans, 1943. Chicago, 1956. San Diego, 2004. Houston, 2017. The cat was in all of them. And there's more, Naomi continued. In each of these cases, the investigations later revealed that the victims were involved in crime, abuse, corruption, or worse. It's as if he followed some kind of moral code. Andrew could hardly breathe. "Do you think it's the same cat?" "Yes, or something that takes the same form. Maybe it's not even an animal. Maybe it's a kind of observer." That night, Andrew had another dream. This time he was inside a burning house. He could feel the smoke filling his lungs, the heat on his skin, and there, standing in the middle of the fire, was the cat, intact, staring straight at him. "You know what you've done," a voice echoed without the animal's mouth moving. Andrew woke up sweating. For the first time, he questioned his own life, his own sins. How many times had he abused his authority as a policeman? How many small corruptions had he overlooked? How many people had he ignored when he could have helped them? What if the next person was him? Over the next few days, Naomi and Andrew joined forces to investigate the next potential targets. They looked for patterns, records, ignored reports, anything they could use to predict where the cat would appear next. That's when they received an anonymous call. A male voice, trembling. "I've seen the cat. It's in my neighbor's yard. I'm looking now. It's not normal. He's been standing still for an hour. He doesn't blink." Andrew wrote down the address. It was in the new part of town, where affordable housing had just been built. He and Naomi rushed to the place. When they got there, they saw the animal, standing still, leaning against the gate of a modest house where a woman called Marjorie Turner lived. Marjorie was a nurse at the local hospital, the mother of 2 young children. In the eyes of the community, she was an exemplary woman. But Naomi found something. Marjorie was accused 3 years ago of medical negligence in another state. The investigation was hushed up. The patient died. Andrew swallowed. Could it be her turn? The cat looked at them, as if to confirm it. "We have to warn her, prevent the fire," said Andrew, running to the door of the house. Marjorie answered it with her children around her. "I don't know what you're talking about. I've never hurt anyone," she said nervously. "The cat is here, and you need to get out of this house today." Andrew had no proof, only instinct. Marjorie hesitated, but Naomi's gaze was enough. Minutes later, the woman left with the children and went to her mother's house on the other side of town. That night, the house remained intact. No fire, but the cat didn't disappear. The next morning, Naomi called Andrew. He's there, still standing in the same place, watching the empty house. So, it wasn't the house. It was her. Or maybe it's still going to happen. The tension was building. Andrew no longer knew if he was dealing with a supernatural vigilante, a demon, a curse, or all of them at the same time. But he knew one thing for sure. If the cat was still there, the fire wasn't over yet. The night after Marjorie's escape, the air in Luray seemed thicker, as if something were hovering over the town, something invisible, about to reveal itself. The strange thing was that even though the nurse's house was empty, the cat didn't leave. It stood motionless at the gate, like a sentinel. Neighbors began to comment. "He's still there, same position. He doesn't eat or meow. He's like a statue." Andrew went to the scene at around 11 o'clock at night. He parked the car in the quiet street and walked slowly to the gate of the house. There was the cat, grey, dirty, its huge eyes shining in the streetlight. But now there was something new, a detail that made Andrew's heart stop for a second. The cat was looking directly at him, not at the house. "No," he muttered. He took a step back. The cat didn't move. It just followed every inch of the movement with its inhuman eyes. That night, he slept badly. He woke up 3 times, each time with the same image. Him, surrounded by flames, being watched by eyes that glowed like embers. When he woke up for the 3rd time, he decided it was time to go back to Elaine's house. She was already waiting for him. She was sitting on the veranda with a blanket on her lap and a worried expression. "I saw it on the news," she said, without him having to explain anything. "The cat has changed its target. He's looking at me now," Andrew confessed. She looked at him in silence. There was something in her eyes, something that looked like pity. "I should have told you before," she said, her voice breaking, "but I didn't have the courage. Tell you what, that fire, the one that killed my mother, it wasn't an accident. I caused it. I set fire to that house." Andrew's eyes widened. The revelation hit him like a punch in the chest. "What? I was just a child. She locked me in my room for days. She made me take part in rituals. She made me do things that—" She took a deep breath, trying not to cry. "I just wanted to run away. I took a candle. I threw it on a curtain. I ran into the garden. The cat was there, looking at me, as if it already knew." Andrew remained silent. The confession seemed to rewrite everything he knew. Her mother wasn't the victim of the cat. She was the victim of a desperate daughter. The cat only witnessed it. "Do you think the cat knew what was going to happen?" She nodded slowly. "I think it always knows, and I don't think he caused it. He's the reflex, the warning." With this new perspective, Andrew dived into the police station's internal archives. He pulled up his own history. He reread every bulletin, every incident, and then he found it. A case filed 3 years ago. A young black man called Tyrell James, found dead in an alleyway. The investigation was superficial, quick, closed as an accident, but Andrew knew. Tyrell had been in his custody the night before, and he had been beaten a lot. Andrew remembered the anger, the pressure of the moment, but he also remembered the scared look on the boy's face. At the time, they covered it up. They said he was upset, that he ran away, and he fell. But now the sergeant wasn't sure of anything. What if the cat had been there that night? What if it was just waiting for the right moment? On the computer screen, Andrew felt his mouth go dry. In the corner of one of the crime scene photos, in the background, barely visible, a silhouette, a grey cat. Desperate, he went to Naomi. He told her everything. She listened in silence, her eyes wide. "So he's marking you," she said. "And maybe he's just waiting for the right moment. I have to put this right. I have to open the case again. Tell the truth. It'll end your career, Andrew. But maybe it will save my life." The next day, Andrew called a press conference. He said that there was evidence of an omission in an old case. He asked for Tyrell's death to be reopened. He confessed that he had been involved, that he had made a mistake, and that he was willing to face the consequences. He was suspended from office the same day, but when he returned home, he felt something different in the air, something lighter, as if the city for a brief moment was breathing. And the strangest thing, the cat had disappeared from the door of Marjorie's house, but the peace was short-lived. That same night, at around 3 in the morning, the town woke up to the sound of an explosion. The flames had taken over the municipal historical archive. Documents dating back over 100 years were destroyed. Naomi called Andrew in a panic. "He's back!" The cat was seen on the security cameras, standing on the side of the building, an hour before the fire. Andrew ran over there. He watched the video, and then he saw it. Yes, the cat was there, but it wasn't alone. In the background, almost imperceptibly, another figure was walking slowly down the street. A woman with white hair, slow steps, covered in a dark cloak. She was carrying a bag. Minutes after she passed, the fire started. Naomi zoomed in on the image. It stopped on the woman's face. "This doesn't make sense," she said in shock. "That woman is Meredith Kane." Andrew felt a chill. "That's impossible. She died in 1972. So who's in the picture?" The only possible answer was too absurd to say. Andrew looked at the monitor, the cat standing still, the woman walking in the background, and the flames, consuming yet another piece of the city's history. The question that echoed now was a different one. What exactly were they trying to put out? What if the fire wasn't the punishment, but cleaning up? The morning after the fire in the historical archive, the city of Luray seemed emptier, not from the streets themselves, but from the look on the residents' faces. It was as if something had been ripped away, a collective memory, a part of the town's history that no longer existed. But Andrew and Naomi knew that what had been destroyed was no accident. "They wanted to erase records," Naomi muttered, scattering folders and notes on the desk of the small newsroom where she worked. Or rather, what she wanted to erase. "If it really is Meredith Kane, that changes everything," Andrew said, tense. "She died in the fire that her own daughter set. How can she be alive? Or still here?" While Naomi searched for old scanned documents, Andrew decided to visit Elaine one last time, but the house was empty. Doors open, no light. On the floor, he found footprints of two kinds, a pair of women's boots and small circular footprints. Cat's paws. In the bedroom, there was a piece of paper, a torn sheet of notebook paper with shaky handwriting. "If she came back, she didn't go alone. Open your eyes. Not everything that burns is evil." The signature was simple: Elaine. There was no sign of struggle. Nothing seemed forced, but something about the scene was wrong. Andrew left the house with a feeling that he would never see her again. At the police station, Naomi crossed her arms in front of the computer. Found it. A photo from the 1950s. A local newspaper was talking about serial fires. 3 houses, 3 nights, 3 victims, all linked to ancient religious cults, pagan practices. And in one of the pictures, there she is, Meredith Kane, young, with the same cat on her lap. She turned the screen to Andrew. "I don't think we're dealing with just a curse or an entity. I think the whole city was built on something, some pact. And the cat, it's just the symptom. Do you think Meredith survived all these years? No, I don't think she ever died. With the help of a local historian, they discovered a name that kept coming back in the oldest archives. Order of the Grey Eye. A secret society that supposedly used fire rituals as purification. Meredith Kane was listed as a priestess in some of the notes. One of the records said, "Burning is the visible end. Judgment takes place in the eyes, and the eyes are eternal." The eyes, Andrew muttered. The cat's eyes. And then came the 5th fire. This time it was the town's orphanage, an old building renovated just a few years ago. But it held a dark past, old allegations of abuse, disappearances of children between the 1960s and 1980s. The flames started shortly after 2 in the morning. There were no victims. The children had coincidentally been taken to a retreat outside the city. Or not. The cat was seen again, but there was something new. This time, witnesses said they saw a woman walking down the stairs before the fire started. "She was wearing black, as if it was part of the night," said one of the neighbors. Her eyes were the same as the cat's. Andrew and Naomi searched the grounds the next day. Among the smoldering rubble, they found a piece of burnt fabric wrapped around a metal object, a locket. Inside, an ancient image, a woman holding a cat in her arms. On the back, an inscription, "He who sees does not judge, he who judges does not burn, but he who lies will be the fire." While all this was going on, Andrew began to be followed, not by anyone visible, But he felt it, the presence, the shadow, a constant chill on the back of his neck, and every night a distant meow. He no longer slept. He no longer ate. He was transforming. "I'm becoming obsessed," he said to Naomi in the newsroom. "Or maybe I'm being pulled towards something I can't understand. Maybe you need to be pulled inside. Only then will you see what's there." Naomi was no longer just a journalist. She was involved. She felt it too. The time with Andrew had awakened something ancient in her, an instinct, a fear that came from somewhere else. It was she who suggested it. "We need to go back to where it all began. Meredith's house, the original land." Andrew hesitated. The house had been destroyed in the fire of 1972. In its place now stood a small public park, built in the 90s. Nobody ever dug there, never touched it. "It's her territory," Naomi said. The next morning, armed with flashlights and tools, Andrew and Naomi jumped over the fence into the park. They looked for the exact spot where Meredith's house had stood. They started digging. After almost 2 hours, they found something. First, the remains of scorched wood. Then, a burnt foundation. But what really shocked them was a staircase. A stone staircase leading down. "That wasn't on any map," Andrew muttered. "Because it shouldn't be," Naomi replied. They descended. Below the surface of the city, there was an ancient stone cellar. There were melted candles, ritual marks on the walls and drawings, lots of drawings, eyes, hundreds of them, all the same shape, all in the same style, and all identical to the cat's eyes. In the center of the space, there was an altar, and on it, an ancient brand made of burnt iron. Truth burns hotter than fire. It was there that they heard the sound. Footsteps. They turned together. At the entrance to the staircase, a figure slowly descended, its face covered by a cloak, and in its arms, a cat, the same one, the grey cat, giant eyes, and the voice coming from the woman as if speaking through the animal. "You have opened what should be buried." Andrew took a step forward. "Who are you?" The woman lifted her hood. "Meredith Kane, exactly the same as the photo from 1972. I'm the bridge between what you pretend to forget and what will never be forgiven." "What's the cat?" Naomi asked. "He is the look, and the look doesn't close." Before they could get any closer, Meredith whispered something in a strange language. The floor shook, the candles lit themselves, and the basement began to burn. Naomi screamed. Andrew tried to run to her, but the flames separated him. The last thing he saw was the cat's gaze. His eyes didn't reflect the fire. They reflected him. Andrew woke up hours later, lying on the grass in the park, covered in soot. The entrance to the basement no longer existed, as if it had never been there. Naomi was gone, and on the ground next to him there was only one thing, the locket with the cat on it, and a phrase engraved with something new. "You saw it? Now you know." The day dawned grey over Luray. The heavy sky seemed to suffocate the air, and Andrew Bell, still covered in soot, stared at the medallion in his hand with empty eyes. The surrounding city functioned normally. Cars, people, smiles. But for him, everything was wrong. Naomi had disappeared. There was no record of her at the hospital, the police station, or the hotel where she was staying. Her cell phone rang and went straight to voicemail. None of the neighbors in the park remembered seeing her the night before. It was as if she had been erased. Andrew knew deep down what that meant. Naomi had crossed a line, one that should perhaps never be crossed. And now, he was the only one who knew the truth. Sitting alone in his house, Andrew began to hear the noises again. A meow. Not loud, but constant, always in the background when he turned off the TV, when he turned on the tap, when I put my head on the pillow. The sound came from inside, not from the house, from him. On the afternoon of that day, as he rummaged through the locket once more, Andrew noticed something he hadn't seen before. A small, hidden compartment which opened with a flick of his fingernail. Inside was a piece of paper folded in four. It was a floor plan from the basement. But next to the floor plan, there was a crude sketch of something buried in the center of the altar, an object encased in metal with the inscription, "To silence the gaze, one must give up the truth." Andrew ran into the park. There was a central part, a kind of circular concrete platform, the exact spot where the basement altar had stood before the fire. He took a sledgehammer and, even in broad daylight, began to break up the concrete. People stopped, took pictures, but he didn't care. Each blow was driven by something other than anger. It was desperation. After almost an hour, he found what he was looking for, an iron box. Rusty, with burnt marks all over it, he opened it carefully. Inside was a book, an old one, with pages stuck together and a smell of smoke. On the cover, no title, but on the first leaf, a single sentence. "Fire is the last judgment, but the first warning is the eyes." Andrew read the book in one night, and everything, absolutely everything, made sense. The town of Luray had been founded on ancient Indian territory, where spirits of the earth were said to watch over men. With colonization, the land was taken over and the original rituals were distorted. Secret groups, such as the Order of the Grey Eye, formed trying to master this power, trying to turn the eye into a weapon. Meredith Kane was one of the last leaders of the Order, but instead of control, she was taken. The cat was real, not as an animal, but as a channel, a vessel, a reflection. It didn't create the fire, it announced it, and if it appeared, it was because someone, on some level, had already lit the flame inside. The fire, then, came from outside, just to complete what had already begun inside. Andrew felt his hands shaking. He had crossed the line. He had the book. He knew too much, and worse, he was guilty. And now, he knew the cat would come back. That morning, Andrew got everything ready. He sat in his living room, lights off, the open book on his lap, and the locket on the table. He waited until, a little after 2 in the morning, he arrived. No hurry. Without a sound, the cat came in through the ajar window. It stopped in the middle of the room. It looked at Andrew. His eyes shone as if they were made of wet glass, magnifying everything. Andrew didn't move. "I'm ready," he said. The cat came closer. It didn't growl. It didn't meow. It leaned against his leg, and for a moment, the sergeant felt at peace. But then, the world went dark. Andrew woke up in a dark room. It looked like the old police station, but it was abandoned, dirty, full of ashes on the floor. In front of him, a figure sat, Meredith, but now, without the cloak. Her face was clean, her hair loose, her eyes the same as the cat's. She spoke. "Do you want to make amends?" "Yes." "Then look." She held out her hand, pointing to a window. Andrew approached, and he saw every fire, every face, every mistake he ignored, every unheard child, every humiliated citizen, every time you looked away, every moment that brought you there. "The gaze does not burn those who see, but it burns those who pretend not to see," she said. "And if I change, then the fire won't be your end, but your beginning." Andrew woke up on the floor of his living room, sweaty, panting. The cat was gone, the book closed, and on the wall, a firebrand, an eye drawn in soot. But he knew what to do. The next morning he went back to the police station. He asked to speak to the city prosecutor. He handed over the book. He handed over copies of the documents Naomi had collected. He handed over the medallion. "The city needs to know," he said, "the whole story, without erasing anything." Over the next few weeks, the population of Luray was divided. Many refused to believe, others wanted answers, and some disappeared. Andrew began working as a janitor in the town's old school. A simple position, discreet but necessary. And every night before he left, he would look at the field behind the school, where a grey cat always appeared for a few seconds. It never came any closer. It never disappeared completely. It just watched. The name Andrew Bell never appeared in the papers again. The local press treated his confession as the last gesture of a disturbed man. Many called him crazy, others called him brave. But the truth, the one that burned inside, no one wanted to face. Most of the evidence about the Order of the Grey Eye mysteriously disappeared in the days following the delivery of the documents. The city prosecutor was involved in a car accident 3 days later. The medallion disappeared from the prosecutor's safe. The old book, the key to the whole story, was destroyed by an electrical fault in the filing cabinet where it was kept. But Andrew had expected this. It was the cycle. The city didn't want the truth. It never had. And the cat, it knew that too. Andrew spent his days at school like a ghost among the corridors. He mopped floors, changed light bulbs, fixed windows. Most people ignored him. But little by little, he began to notice something curious. The children, they looked at him intently, as if they knew. And more than that, as if they felt what he had done. One of the girls, aged 7, called Callie, used to be last in the room. One day while Andrew was erasing the board, she said, "I saw the kitten, he froze." "When?" "Yesterday. It was looking at me through the window. It doesn't blink." "Were you scared?" "No, I think he's looking after me." Andrew took a deep breath. Maybe he is. That night, Andrew went back to the park. He wasn't looking for answers. No confrontation. Just presence. He sat down on the bench where he had previously dug out the hidden altar. He looked up at the sky. The moon was overcast and the city seemed to be holding its breath. He closed his eyes, and then he felt it, the cat, sitting next to him, silent. "You came," said Andrew, without opening his eyes. The animal didn't answer, but it didn't need to. "I understand now," Andrew continued. "The fire was never punishment. It was purification, a warning, a fresh start. For me, for the city, for everyone who chooses to watch." Silence. Then Andrew opened his eyes and stared at the cat. His eyes were still huge, but now there was something else, something different. Peace. For the first time, he felt no fear, only acceptance. The next morning, Andrew went back to work. He prepared the school breakfast, opened the gates, waved to the teachers, but something had changed in him. His presence was more lighter. In the principal's office, he found an envelope on her desk. No sender. Inside, a photo. It was old, an aged portrait. It showed a group of people in front of the town church. Among them, a dark-haired woman holding a grey cat. On the back of the photo, a handwritten note read, "As long as there are those who see, fire is not necessary." The following week, another fire threatened to break out. An anonymous tip warned of an abandoned house where an escaped man was hiding. The cat was spotted by neighbors, this time not at the gate, but on the roof. Andrew arrived at the scene before the fire department. He entered carefully. He found the man armed, panicking. "You're not going to arrest me!" he shouted. "Nobody's going to arrest you," Andrew said calmly, "but you need to get out of here now." "What's this? A warning?" The man laughed, debauched. Andrew pointed out the window. "Take a look at the roof." The man looked and turned pale. "What kind of fucking cat is that? One that's seen too much." The man left. He was taken away by the police hours later without resistance. But the house didn't catch fire. For the first time, the cycle was broken. Over time, Andrew realized that the cat would remain there, always, in a window, on a sidewalk, sometimes in the street, sometimes in his dreams. But it was no longer a threat. He was a memory. It was awareness. It was a reminder that the eyes that see everything don't want to burn anyone. They just want someone to finally look back. Years later, Callie, the schoolgirl, grew up to become a teacher. On her first day at school, as she entered the classroom early, she saw a grey cat sitting on the chair in the corner. She smiled. "I know who you are." He stared at her for a few seconds. Then it jumped off the chair and disappeared. 5 years have passed since the last fire in Luray. Since then, no other strange cases have happened. No alarms going off in the middle of the night. No house on fire without explanation. No trail of soot where there shouldn't be fire. The town has continued to grow. New supermarkets, a digital library, a small but always crowded movie theater. The city became a place, ordinary. But not everyone had forgotten. Callie, now 22, was teaching literature at the same school where she had studied. In the first class of the year, she told old stories about Luray, but in a subtle way, almost like she was testing the students' sensitivity. He said, "There are legends about a grey cat that appeared when something bad was about to happen, but sometimes he just came to remind people that they could still change." Most people laughed. They thought it was just a story, but some looked at her in silence, and those were the ones she paid the most attention to. Andrew Bell lived in a small house on the outskirts of town. He hadn't gone back to the police. He never cared about politics or fame. He grew tomatoes, raised chickens, and read old books. One evening, while he was closing up the greenhouse in the backyard, he saw a cat sitting on the fence, grey, immobile. But Andrew wasn't scared. He just smiled. "It's all right now," he said quietly. "They see at last." The cat stared at him for a moment. Its eyes, still huge, seemed less heavy, as if the burden of the world was gradually being shared. Then the animal jumped over the fence and disappeared into the trees. Somewhere outside of time, where neither the calendar nor clocks have any value, a female figure walks through dark corridors. Meredith Kane. Her eyes still reflect fire, but her footsteps are no longer angry. They are those of vigil. She carries the book, the one Andrew once read. The pages continue to write themselves, a new story, a new cycle, and in each chapter, the same mark, eyes open, the symbol of the gaze that never closes. Because in cities like Luray and in so many others that pretend that forgetting is better than correcting, what is burned never disappears completely. It waits, patiently, until someone has the courage to look back. What did you think of this outcome? Leave your opinion in the comments. We'd love to know what you think. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave your like to support our work. See you in the next video.